tool provided by UW-Madison. So the way the tool works is each page is going to ask you a question. You'll have several options. Sometimes you can only choose one answer, and sometimes you can choose more than one answer. You can choose as many answers as apply. So this first question is asking what type of housing you're looking for. The first option is a completely vacant unit, and that means basically an empty apartment. It can also mean an empty house or an empty townhouse, but most WESLI students are looking for apartments. The second option is if a group of people already are renting an apartment and they're just looking for one more roommate. So that's what the second option is. And then the third one is a private individual room in a home or an apartment or somewhere else. And that's a nice option for some people. The one thing I'll point out is that this can sometimes mean that you're sharing a bathroom with other people. And for a lot of students, that's great, that's no problem. And for other students, that's not really what they're looking for. So that's just something you want to be aware of with this third choice. And the fourth one is individual and shared rooms and a privately owned residence hall. And this can be another nice option for WESLI students. This would mean it's basically like an apartment, but some of these privately owned residence halls have more amenities, more little extras and special things. For example, maybe they have an exercise room, a little gym, or maybe they have a movie theater, or maybe they offer breakfast in the morning. So it's like an apartment, but with more. Of course, it also costs more. And then this last option is probably not going to be that useful to most WESLI students looking for an apartment, because it's going to be just for apartments offered by a certain person or a certain company. So for the purposes of this example, I am just going to choose the first one, which is an empty apartment. That's what I'm going to do. Next page. So the next question asks how many bedrooms you want. So that's pretty easy to answer. The only thing I'll point out is that an efficiency or studio is an apartment that doesn't have a separate bedroom. So you would sleep perhaps in your living room in this kind of an apartment. So I am going to just choose efficiency and one bedroom. And this is an example of one of those questions where you can click as many options as work for you. All right, next page. Great, and so the next question is asking what kind of place you're looking for. Most WESLI students are not looking for a house, and they're also probably not looking for a duplex or a townhouse. It's often a little expensive, and there aren't that many very close to WESLI. The most popular choice, by far, is an apartment or a flat or a condo. So that's what I'm going to choose. And the next question is almost here. Great, and it asks when you want your lease to start, when you'd like to start living in this place. And just for the purposes of this example search, I'm going to choose spring semester. That's actually the time of year it is right now, so it'll be interesting to see what's available at this point. In Madison, a lot of people rent their apartments pretty early. All the students who live here make plans ahead of time, so it'll be interesting to see how many apartments are available now. Great. And the next question asks how long you'd like to stay. And I think a good answer for a lot of WESLI students is going to be that it doesn't matter or you haven't decided. And now if one of these other answers fits your situation, great, choose one of them. But I'm just going to keep this bottom answer. Oh, and you can see over here, we always, on each screen you get an update. And 48 is the number of apartments that match all of the answers that we've answered so far. So that number will keep getting smaller as we answer more questions. Great, and this is where you can enter how much you're willing to pay for your apartment. So here you could put the low number. You say you really want to make sure that you're paying at least $300 a month. And here you would put your high number, that you cannot pay more than that. I'm going to leave these blank, but this is where you would enter your budget information, and that'll help narrow down your choices too. All right, so the next step is to say where you'd like to live. And by now you're probably pretty good at finding Wesley on a map. There's the little square that shows where the capital is. So area number 3 will be very close to Wesley. I'll mark that. And then area number 6 is a close neighbor to Wesley, and area number 2 is also. So I'm just going to mark those two. And anytime that you feel like you've answered enough questions and this number is small enough, you can click View, and that will mean that you don't answer any more questions and you're just going to go right to the list of the apartments. But I want to keep going through all the questions just so you see what they're all about. All right, moving on to the next page. Great. Do you plan on bringing a pet? Probably most Wesley students don't have a pet, but if you want to keep your options open, you could select no preference, and that means you don't care what the rules are. Anything's fine. But maybe you really don't want to have pets around, so then you could choose pets not allowed. That will narrow your options. Just for our search, I'm going to choose no preference and go on to the next page. Great. Now this page is a little more important for some students. These are some extras that might come with some apartments, and anything that's really important to you that your apartment must have, this is where you would mark them. So for example, parking. If you have a car, your life is a lot easier if your apartment has a parking space. So maybe that's important to you. Laundry. Maybe you don't want to have to walk down the block to do your laundry. Maybe you want to be able to just go into the basement. Air conditioning. Maybe that's important. Furnished. Do you want to have to buy furniture, or do you say, no, I don't want to have to buy a bed and buy a table. I want my apartment to come with those things. So you could choose to have it furnished. Heat included. Of course, all apartments in Wisconsin come with heat. The only question is, how do you pay for it? Sometimes your rent includes the cost of heating, and sometimes you pay rent, but then you also have to pay more for your heat. So that's all this means. Accessible housing. This is mostly going to apply if, for example, you use a wheelchair. Not all apartments are easy for people in wheelchairs to use. So if you need a special setup because of special physical requirements, you would choose accessible housing. And then I'm not going to deal with this last one. So I think for our example search, I'm going to choose laundry and furnished. Let's see what they have with that. Great. Limit results by date. I think in most cases, you're probably not going to want to do anything here. To search all the listings, you just leave the date as it is. And I think that's what we want to do. So I'm going to move on, and now this is our last question. So by clicking this button, we're going to get our results. Loading, loading. You see that they're going to be 11. Great. And you could print this page, you can save it to your computer, and you'll see here there's a very brief summary that shows you all of the questions that you answered and how you answered them. So that'll be good if you do more than one search. It's nice to have that summary on the page. And let's see. All right, so these are all the buildings that have apartments that match our search. And then on this side, they have more details about each of the buildings. But it's a lot to scroll through, so maybe you know the street that you want, so you just want to hop down. So just for our example, I'm going to choose 3 apartments. I'll choose that one. I'll hop down to the Gilman one. There. And maybe one more. Gorham's probably fine, but I'm just going to choose something else. Alright, it's just taking a little while to scroll. My computer is struggling to record and load all this information. That looks fine, but I'm still going to go to another one. There, maybe I'll choose that one. Alright, so you go through the listings, see any that are interesting to you, that you'd like to get more information about, and instead of having a big long list with maybe only half of the apartments of any interest to you, you could choose to redisplay the things that you've selected. So now we only have those 3 apartments that I chose earlier. And you can go through and just look at all the details about each apartment. There, so here it tells you the apartments that are available, the name of the building, what kinds of apartments they are, how big the building is, what the rent is, what's included, what isn't, what your security deposit is, when the lease begins, all of those kinds of things. Some of the rules about what's allowed, some of the amenities, some of those nice little extras that some places offer, and additional comments. For example, here there's a view of Lake Mendota. That sounds pretty, and there's a fitness room, those kinds of things. And then there'll also be contact information. Often it will be an email address, a person's name. In this case, they don't give you a person's name, but they do give you a phone number and the name of the company. So if you were interested in this apartment, you could just send them an email or give them a phone call. And yeah, that's pretty much it. You could print this page, you could save it to your computer, and once you're done, you can choose to do another search. Because, for example, in this one, we were looking for apartments that had laundry and were furnished. But maybe you want to do another search. Maybe you decide, I don't really care that much about laundry. I didn't really love any of these apartments. I want a broader search. So you could go back and do another search, click search again, and you go right back to that first page that we started on. There it is. So anyway, that's how you use this tool. It's really useful. I think it works great, and there are usually some really nice apartments listed. Happy hunting. I hope you found a great apartment. Okay, good luck.